Hey guys, Jerry here, starting my new channel right here, Jerry the Trucker, and just wanted to talk to you for a few moments right here, before that we begin our pre-trip. I'm mainly doing this for you guys that's getting into the trucking industry, and right now is a good time to get into it. Now, I own my own truck right now. I'm an owner-operator for Western Express. And I know that some of you are going to have some bad things to say about Western Express, and some of you aren't, and that's really the way it goes with all these companies, folks. And some of it is a lot of what you make of it, okay? But today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out, and I'm not going to say that I'm going to do every little thing on my truck. I'm going to do a basic pre-trip inspection of my truck, so you young guys can see firsthand what I'm doing and get a little bit of a feel for what it's like to do a pre-trip, okay? We'll start from doing the outside right here. So let's begin. We log in pre-trip on duty on our Qualcomm or whatever we have. Some of you may have PeopleNet. There's different ones, but it all basically boils down to the same thing. And we start right here by taking a look at my bumper, my heavy-duty bumper that I have. Lost. And I'm okay with that. I will tell you this, when I first got this truck, this guy had somebody that had actually rubbed into him right here. And it made a little scar on here. And this is what happens, guys. This happened now before I got the truck. This is what happens when you sit on the corner of a truck stop a lot of times. These guys will round those corners. That's probably what took place here. And so what I'm trying to tell you is try to avoid being on the corners of those parking lots and being the very last truck, because that's probably what happened to him here. This is talking about the guy that had the truck before me. Because again, like I said, that was already that way when I got my truck. I'm going to get that cleaned up, by the way, too. There's really no damage to it, but somebody got into it. There is one little scar. But anyway, the grill has no visible damages. The lights, we're going to go over every bit of that a little bit later, but we don't see any cracks in it. No visible damage to the hood. No visible damage to the rubber at the top or to my solid window, which I love the solid windshield, guys, better than anything. No damage to my mirrors on either side. And so I'm going to pause it here just for a second. We're going to lift the hood up. And again, this is a basic pre-trip inspection for you guys. It may not include every little thing, but I'm trying to get you to have an idea of what it's like to pass pre-trip. So hang tight. Okay, my bumper guard right there, folks, lets down. It's got a solid bar there that lets down. I've let both sides of it down. And so I'm pulling up on top of my hood here now. My hood's not all that heavy. Some of these bigger hoods on some of these Peterbilts and stuff might take two hands and a good yank. So we come on over here and we take a look at the motor. Tell you what, let me go on ahead and I'm going to get a flashlight here. I didn't want to do this in the middle of the day. It's too hot. Hold on. You need to get you a good quality flashlight for this kind of thing too, guys. We're going to start with our bumper. We don't have any visible damage on the inside of this. Our steering knuckle and our brake canister and our air lines, we don't have no visible damages to any of it. No movement on the kingpin. The steering rod that we have right here that comes directly off of the steering wheel, no visible damage to that. No visible damage to the kingpin down here, to the tie rod ends. You want to take a good look if you see any fresh things, any whatsoever amongst all these components and stuff, folks, like your S-cams and stuff like that. You want to look all that stuff over real good. Right here is my fuel filter. We don't have any visible leaks on it, and we don't smell anything. We come on up here into our intake, And folks, if you've got an intake like mine right here, you'll want to keep that sucker wiped out real good. Which you can see that my air filter has got that blue look on the inside of it, so it's pretty new. And you can tell by looking at a lot of these components, folks, it's in this stuff like your oil filter and so forth. You can see if you have any visible leaks. Any visible exhaust that's coming out that you can deliberately see the black spots from the exhaust. You got a lot of exchange tubes and stuff. It comes off of your water pump and your fuel pump. All that stuff, if you have anything at all going on with it, you should have either something smelling, or you should have something that's visible, like the exhaust, any of that stuff. You want to make sure the belt that's on the front of your truck is not cracked or frayed in any way whatsoever, and all the plastic fins on your fan is in place really good. Make sure all that your clutches are turning and so forth with the truck on. Check your oil and check your water. If you have any water that's going and you don't have no leaks, folks, well, I want you young guys to remember one thing: you could have a cracked head. And a cracked head means that the waters are getting in with your oil, and you don't want that to happen, because it'll eat the mains, rods, it'll eat the piston, it'll eat everything alive in your motor. So this is a Cummins X15 is what it is. That's what I've got. Let's see here. There we go. I'll help matters a little bit by using the phone right here. So we go over to the other side. And this is, again, is one of those things where you have the turbo right here. And usually all those components that goes along in with this turbo, guys, is the DEF systems and stuff like that. Nobody really understands that stuff. I don't either. But if you have any exhaust leaks or any smells of DEF, which DEF has cow urine in it, so you're going to know if you do indeed smell it, okay? You need to make sure that your washer fluid is full. Believe it or not, they can give you a ticket for that now. All your components, your kingpin and tie rod ends and steering rod and stuff, you need to make sure all that stuff is in good shape over on this side. Your brake canister, S-cams, your brake pad and so forth. On your tires, you need to make sure you don't have no cuts, no gashes, nothing like that in it. Make sure all the lug nuts is in place. And if you have even one of these missing, folks, you don't want to, definitely on the steering tire, you don't want to play with that any whatsoever. Do not move this thing if you have any of these broken. You want to make sure this center cap is not leaking. And again, you can see a lot of this damage if it's visible, folks. In the spring, you want to make sure your spring hangers and stuff on both sides don't have any movement, because it can break. Your ear right here can break right off of this and separate itself, and you can't tell it unless you see a little bit of movement to it. There's my air conditioner, and you got the alternator down below it. The alternator, if you ever get a whine going in it, why it's going, it's a sign it's about ready to go out, okay? So if you hear a whine going in with that, or if you got a situation where you're turning your AC on and this clutch is not turning completely in the front, you know, you could have issues with that, okay? But pretty much all the components that you have on this motor, you're going to be able to tell if there's an exhaust leak because of the black soot look, or you're going to be able to tell if there is some type of leak with your antifreeze or with oil, because you can smell it and you can see it, folks. It very quickly, a whole lot of this, you're not really expected to know every little single thing about it, but you visibly should be able to look at it and tell, is this leaking something? And if it is there a smell or a look to it? Really a whole lot of common sense. Now, my motor is a Cummins X15, and I like this motor a great deal. I just love it. I love the way it sounds. So, without further ado, let's move on from the motor. But like I said, a lot of that's common sense. You're not expected to know every little thing, but you need to take a look at that stuff and look it over good to make sure all the fluids are good. You need to make sure, too, that your oil, check your oil really, really well. And check your antifreeze. All that stuff needs to be checked good. Windshield washer fluid. Look these tires over real good, and your lug nuts and stuff, your center cap, look all that stuff over real good on both ends. And again, I'm doing a lot of this for you guys, okay? I know what I'm looking at, but relaying it, I may not be as good at it. Now, obviously, you can tell by looking at the truck if you have any visible damages of any kind to the steps or to the windows or anything like that. You want to make sure that your windows are cleaned off good. Make sure that your CB antenna, if you have a CB antenna, is good and in place. Mine's got a little, I don't know, got a little free flow to it. I think I'm going to end up replacing that before it's over with. Your DEF, the diesel exhaust fluid. Make sure that that cap is on secure and tight. And always make sure that that little nozzle is the one that goes in this, folks. Don't never end up putting DEF in your fuel. If you do accidentally do that, don't crank your truck up like a dummy, folks. The company would much rather, no matter who they are, I'm sure I'm speaking for all these companies, they would much rather drain that out as have to deal with issues of completely rebuilding this motor because you ran that stuff in your fuel. Whatever you do, don't put it in your fuel, and if you do and you mess up, just admit it and be a man or be a woman and just call your company and say, hey, I messed up and I don't want to crank my motor up, and they will be happy to drain those tanks and get everything done with your truck without cranking it up, because once you crank that motor up, you've created 10 times as many problems for them, okay? Take a look and make sure there's no visible damage down here on the bottom end of the body. Make sure your fuel cap is tight and secure and in place. Out here, as far as your fire extinguisher, I'm not going to open it up. You need to make sure your fire extinguisher's in there. You need to make sure your triangles is in there. Some of the bare necessities that you need, like a funnel, in case you need it for, oil or antifreeze. Come back here and check for visible damages right here around the fenders. Make sure that the welding and stuff and the cross members and so forth that you have on your frame doesn't have any wire marks on it. Fresh marks, folks, is what you're looking for in any situation where you have metal to metal. And that really should be common sense. If you see anything at all while you're looking at this truck and you see a fresh metal movement, that's not normal for a truck to have that, okay? Just remember that. Now, if it's slide and it's only 1/4 of an inch or less or something, you might say, well, that might be. But if you've got any significant movement or any shiny marks whatsoever, it's not normal with this stuff, folks. You got something going on. Now, I like this new system that they have with the airlines. Mine's all in together. You've got the pigtail right here that fits right in with
GPS
the red
lost.
and the blue line. You got your blue regular line here, and you got your emergency line. Check and make sure that the knob is tight and in place right here on your paperwork for your trailer, because you always want to make sure that you've got that, folks. Matter of fact, some of these companies, if you're new and you go into them, or if you're with a company that's not too well recognized, they may actually ask you to bring your paperwork in for your trailer. They may want to see the registration, and if this thing's not on tight and you lose your registration, they may not take it, because some industries, some warehouses want to make sure that your trailer's not too old, especially if you're not a worldwide recognized carrier. They'll check you out. Now, of course, they know Western Express. They know that Western Express is keeping their stuff up. So, you need to take a look at your tires back here in the rear for any cut marks, gash marks, etc. Make sure that you have at least 2 30-seconds inch tread on every bit of this from one side to the other. The front takes 4 30-seconds, so it's a little bit more stricter requirements. But you got 2 30-seconds that's required here, and that is for the entire surface of the the tire. If you see any place at all that's on that tire that is bald down to the bald spot, it's illegal, folks. And you don't want to let this go, you young guys. You really don't, because if you do, it's going to be CSA points. I think it's 30 CSA points for a bad tire. You can't afford that, and your company can't afford it anymore, guys. Okay? Make sure your latch is secure and in place right here with your fifth wheel plate. Okay? Check it over real careful. Make sure that your fifth wheel plate on your slide is locked and in place good. Check your springs out and so forth right here, and your center trunnions and stuff, and make sure they're good. Take a look at the airbags. Check your airbags and make sure there's no movement whatsoever in the airbags. Okay? Take a look at your nuts and bolts right here, folks. It's on your drive lines. If you got any nuts and bolts missing any whatsoever on your universal joints, that can spell definite trouble. Okay? Check your exhaust. Make sure that you don't have any exhaust leaks. Check your air ride right here on the back of your cab and make sure it's properly inflated to the proper inflation. And right here actually is the adjuster to that. You shouldn't really have to fool with that too much, folks. Okay? If you got a heater that's underneath your cab, like I have a heater underneath mine, you might want to check and see if there's any leaks whatsoever from the heat that comes off of that. And if it is, get it taken care of, because you definitely don't want that leaking in any sense of the word. Check the structural integrity of your trailer from front to end. Make sure that the braces and everything is good and secure, and make sure your handle is hanging in the lock position for your landing gear. Now, in my particular situation, somebody has actually done a little bit of damage right here. You can see that it's got a bend to it. And that's probably happened with a rock or something like that on an uneven surface, but even though that it's got it that way, it's not enough to significantly affect the function of the trailer or the safety of it. And so in that particular situation, it wouldn't be reportable. You're going to see that kind of thing when you drop and hook a lot of these trailers, guys. You're going to see a whole lot of it. Now, I want to show you something that is really, really, really important when it comes to these trucks, okay? And I really want you to pay attention to this. Not only should your mud flaps be secure and in place, but guys, you should be able to get under here and look and make sure that that fifth wheel latch is secure around that kingpin on your fifth wheel lock. Folks, I cannot urge the situation enough. I cannot accent it enough. That is a very, 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 very important thing when it comes to this pre-trip inspection, and it's something that you don't ever want to shortchange. Don't ever shortchange that, guys. Anytime you hook to a new trailer, you always get under there and you make sure that that fifth wheel latch is secure around that kingpin. Okay? All right, this aerodynamic system right here, you want to make sure all of it's in place. And I know that we're going past the lights, but what we're going to do is, my truck has got a system on these lights that I'm going to show you what to do here in just a minute with it. This, of course, is for your placards. If you need any placards, make sure that they're secure and in place. Go all over your lug nuts, your bolts, your self-inflation system right here that goes in. Make sure that's good. Make sure your tires has got the 2/32 inch tread on it, just like the drives on your truck. Make sure all the torsion and trunnion bars and springs is in place. Make sure your S-cam, cam shafts, your slack adjusters, all that is secure and in place under the truck. Take a look at your brake canisters. One thing that you want to do too while you're inspecting this, you want to set the tractor and listen to the trailer for leaks, and then set the trailer and listen to the tractor for leaks on air. And do it with the unit shut off, guys. And you should be able to hear any visible air leaks that you have, or leaks to the ear, that needs to be heard. You come back here and you check on your mud flaps. Your mud flaps secured in place underneath the trailer. Check your slide rail. The slide rail needs to be in good shape. And your pin, where you do slide your rail, the pin needs to be in good shape right here. And in this particular situation, you've got a pull pin that's on this one. So the air operates that. And so keep in mind, if you ever slide these, you got to lay the air to it off of the tractor. If you're just hooking to the trailer, you have to have air to it before that it will operate. It's not like a regular pull latch that you have on the old design. You want to check the integrity of the DOT bumper back here. Make sure the DOT bumper is in place. Make sure that the trailer and the hinges on the doors are all in place and secure. In my particular situation, we have one of these big steel seals, and they'll have to end up taking that off with pinchers. So if it's like that, you can't put a lock on it. I myself like it when the little circular piece is in place down here where you can put a latch down here for a lock. But on their trailers, they don't have it. So, and I don't particularly like that. I like so you can put a lock somewhere. You need to check all your LED lights and make sure that they're okay. If the DOT bumper is damaged somewhat, folks, it doesn't mean you can't run it, but you may want to call your company and tell them, hey, somebody's bent the DOT bumper. If there's parts of that DOT bumper that's missing, you may want to put it out of service because you don't want somebody going underneath you, folks. Somebody goes underneath these trucks. There was a lot of people got their heads cut off early on in trucking because things weren't in place to stop cars from going underneath these trailers, and unfortunately, people got decapitated. Now, any of this damage that you may see on the trailer, depending on what it is, which every one of these drop and hook trailers to a certain degree are all going to have a certain amount of damage on them because they all have yard dogs that's dealing with them. And then sometimes they got idiots that's dealing with them too that works for the company. So, you know, it's you're going to have little cuts and smears in this, but you need to make sure that there's actually nothing that has penetrated the integrity of the trailer that will cause the product inside the truck, the trailer, to get wet. You don't want that wetness going on with any of your products. So, but we come on down through here and we do the same thing that we did on the other side. We take a look at all that. Landing gear. In this particular situation, this one is even bent just a little bit, guys. But the thing about it is, like I tried to tell you, it's not enough to affect the function of it. So you don't put it down on your report. And so you follow the same thing down through here. Make sure everything's nice and in place and all your cosmetics and stuff. I don't particularly like all this plastic, guys. I've got a little bit of movement on mine right now. It's all secure and in place, but I got one place over here that I'm going to have to completely replace the nut and bolt and everything in it. So, you know. But like I said, it's just all the same thing working your way down this way. Now, what we'll do is, now that I have taken a good look at my truck and make sure that all my tires are up and inflated, I didn't check my tires for the pressure levels on them, because it would make this thing too limited.
GPS signal lost.
But you do want to do that. And you can get used to just using a tire mallet. And if it has a good bounce to it, your tire's in good shape. If it has a poor bounce to it and it doesn't have a thumping pull back to it when you hit it, it's low. Tire's low. And so these inspections are very, very important that you do all this. Now, I'm going to show you something about my truck that is very, very unusual. Well, some of the trucks have it. And it's really neat, and it's a way of checking your lights. So we're going to go and we're going to check our lights here. And I'll show you the function that I have with checking my lights in my truck. So let's fire our truck up. And I've got this lamp check system. in this lamp check system, it allows you to check all your lights out. So, once we do that, hang on. Follow the marker lights. That one's good. Center marker light here is good. End marker light down here is good. Sometimes, guys, you'll have an ABS light down here too that shouldn't be shining unless you got an ABS problem. Now there's the ABS for mine, and it's not shining, and that's a good thing. Because if it was shining, there would be a problem with the ABS system on this trailer, and you'd have to get that checked out. You can see the LEDs are burning. I've got my top marker lights burning. The end light burning. The ABS is only on one side too. You don't have it on both sides, so there's not one over here. And so you got this middle marker light burning. Top light burning. I've got my front marker light right here, which is the only marker light I have on the tractor on this side. It's burning. So let's take a look here. I thought, hang tight. I thought that we had, hang on. You want to check your windshield wipers. Make sure that they're going and functioning properly. So let's take a look at our signal lights. Signal light working good. I've got a way, folks, that I can get this truck to run systematically through all these signals. I'll have to get in there and look at it. I've only been with this truck for a week, so there is a way you can do it, though, because I done it the other day. Working good on this one. Now, usually what I do is, for the back one, what I usually do is I just put my hazard lights on. You can see the hazard lights going. Like I said, there is a setup that I've got on my lamp check that will even mash the brakes and bring the brake lights on back here. I'm going to have to figure out how to do that, guys. I've only been with this truck a week, but you can see they're working. And so my truck has passed DOT inspection. Now, you might say, Jerry, there was a thing or two you might have went over. We can't go over every little thing, or this video would be so lengthy. I just wanted to graze the first few things for you guys to kind of help you out a little bit. Tires, lug nuts, movement on things, apparent exhaust leaks. You're going to learn what gear oil smells like. You're going to learn what antifreeze smells like. If you have a stick that's low on oil, okay, if it's down to the add mark, remember, that add mark's not like a car. It doesn't mean 1 quart of oil. It means 1 gallon, okay? But thanks, guys, for watching my video. I've got more stuff coming for you. And again, this is for the young people and the people entering the trucking industry. This is not to get specific and real technical about a lot of things. I'm doing this for the young guys, okay? So thank you for watching my video.